are you? And thank you for being here.
Good. Thank you for having me.
What inspired you and steered you toward music as a child?
I think I've been attracted by supernatural matters since I was 4 years old, and that magic world drove me into music. So the moment that I put my hands on this upright piano that I had in my family room, I was looking for notes and sounds that were connecting with the afterlife.
How long did you play that piano? Did you have it throughout your childhood?
I was 4 years old when I started playing, and I learned by ear, like I'm self-taught.
Okay.
So I kept playing by myself, listening to the vinyls at that time, you know, in the late 70s that were part of my family collection. And so I had like a lot of classical music, the Russian composers, Mussorgsky. I was hearing a lot of Depeche Mode and Earth, Wind and Fire, Police. So
what about Kraftwerk? Was Kraftwerk?
yes, very much, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Kraftwerk and, you know, all the Electronica in the beginning of the 80s and some funk also. So I combine everything, and in a very wild way. I just grew up with one side that was very connected with the electronic movements, and others they were very acoustic and more cultured. And then I love this record label called ECM, which had, you know, Keith Jarrett and you know, the early Pat Metheny stuff. And so that helped me to develop a perception of acoustic instruments and jazz that sounded really profound to me. So I had like pop electronic thing, and then at the same time I had this, you know, more elite type of connection with music.
You started your career and in Italy, right?
You know, after I explored the things that I liked, there was a lot of pop music, you know, local pop music. One of the biggest stars, his name was Lucio Dalla. He basically hired me to arrange and produce, and I was 20 at that time. And then at the same time, I had so much passion for movies because I, you know, really spent a lot of time watching certain type of movies since I was maybe 4 or 5. When I realized that I had enough weapons and skills to make music, I started with pop music. And then after Lucio Dalla, I worked with a very famous and super talented singer, Elisa. And then when I was doing her record, second record, which had influences from Bjork and Tori Amos, which is a big part of the, you know, part of the artist that influenced my growing up, let's say. Then I decided that I wanted to move to the United States and score for movies, because that was my passion. And I started sending some demos to Los Angeles, and I had great feedbacks, but everyone was saying, you have to move here, we don't know you, you know, the music is good or great. And so I remember once I wrote a song called Oceano that went to one of the most successful festivals there, called Festival of Sanremo. And then somehow I made an English version of that song with a young singer from Nashville. Her name is Alana Grace, and she performed the song in a party in Hollywood where David Foster was at that time, and he went to her and asked who was the writer. And so through her family, I was called by David Foster in Bologna, in my little town outside of Bologna.
Amazing.
And he was saying, you know, we have an artist who is very popular, Josh Groban here, and he was not at that time in Europe. So I said, okay, nice. And I heard your song. I'd like you to produce 3 versions on 3 different keys. Can you send the files? And I sent all the files, and then the song happened to be the track number 1 of this record that sold probably now almost 10 million units.
Wow.
So I was very lucky. And David was great because, you know, he respected all the work I did, and so I got the producer credit, the arranger, and I performed, I played the piano. So after that, I said, okay, maybe it's time for me to go to Los Angeles, because I had enough connections and a good bridge.
What are you looking for when you work, not only as a musician, but as a producer working with other musicians and singers?
I tend to be creative when there is room to develop a concept from scratch. So like And when I see that there's a lot of value and it inspires me, then I probably give 200%, you know, even if sometimes the budget is not great, you know, I don't mind because I feel motivated that I connect with the quality and there's a mission underneath.
Well, is there anything else on your agenda right now?
I have a piano and quartet records.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
for
so
you.
that's classical, you know, that's classical,
Yeah.
new impressionism, new post-minimalism. And then there's a project called Seven that I've been working at. That's my big passion. It's very imaginative, and the subject is the afterlife and the transformation of death. So we would love the people to not feel scared about death, but to embrace it as part of life and have courage on facing that transformation, basically.
Okay, we're going to end with this question. What is the best piece of advice that you've gotten?
Talent is not enough. There is a discipline that it's responsible for success. However successful you are meant to be or become, it will not happen if you don't apply discipline and daily efforts like a muscle that you have to develop. Without that, you can have a lot of talent, but things are never going to align or give something final to you.
Thank you so much for coming on this
Thank you for having me.
episode of Musician Shift.